Hi guys, Chrissy,
Megan.
Denny, Muddy Waters, Search and Recovery. We're going to talk about Alex some more tonight. Denny, go ahead.
We're going to start by discussing the autopsy report. Now, out of respect for Alex and Alex's mother, she does watch these. We don't want to go too graphic with anything, but we're going to kind of explain it out for you. Alex did test positive for, what was that word? I had trouble with these words. Cotinine. This is basically a chemical found in tobacco products, and it's also used to treat depression and stuff like that. But he did test negative for all other drugs. The bullet exited the left temple, forming a 1.5 by 1.0 centimeter wound. The entrance was on the right side of the temple and left a 6.5 by 6.0 millimeter wound. There was some soot at the edges of the wound, and an apparent muzzle imprint is present on the inferior margin of the wound. I'll get this out straight here in a minute. And there was no bullet fragmentation found. There were no signs of trauma to the neck, the chest. The only other significant findings were old scarring on the upper shoulders and thighs and upper arms. I did confirm that was self-inflicted in the past, and Alex had sought help, professional help for that, and was being treated for this. The summary of the autopsy report said this is a contact gunshot wound to the head. The entrance is the right temple, the exit is the left temple, and the direction is from right to left. There were no signs of other acute bodily trauma or natural diseases, and the cause of death is a gunshot wound to the head, and the manner was ruled suicide. We're not going to go into a lot of our own personal thoughts on this, but something that I do want to mention with this, the entrance temple, or the right temple, had the entrance hole according to the autopsy report and law enforcement reports. And the wound was 6.5 by 6.0 centimeters. That's the entrance wound. The left temple had the exit wound, which was 1.5 by 1.0 centimeters. Very significantly smaller than what they're calling the entrance wound. And that is significant. They said it went from right to left. Please remember this. We will be bringing this up again in our next episode as we do our reenactments on this. But please remember that information. The police report also, as we covered in a previous episode, police report shows Alex had his legs crossed, and I read again today, his ankles were crossed. He was sitting on the ground in about a foot of snow. His left hand was in his sweatshirt pocket. His right hand was down near his waist stomach area. And the gun they found on scene was under his right elbow near his waist. And one more thing I want to mention, they did not do the test where they check the hand to see if there's gunpowder residue. They did not do that. And I believe it was in an email from the detective, told the mother, law enforcement don't do this no more because it doesn't hold up in court, etc. He's saying you only see it in movies now. Right. I do have to disagree.
Yeah.
They do still use that.
That was very shocking when Denny told us that. I thought, you have got to be kidding me. They quit doing that? That is like a vital part of investigation for anything involved like that. That's odd.
And even if it wouldn't hold up in court for some reason, you would think having a tool like that to use would at least help you in your investigation. I mean, that would answer so many questions on this case.
Yeah.
So what we've taken away from the autopsy report, they did not go in to check anything below the neck due to the body still being significantly frozen. So they only focused on the head. So we do have them saying the bullet traveled from right to left, entered the right temple, exited the left temple with the measurements. So with that, I am going to turn this over to Megan, and she's going to kind of hit on some topics and some information along with this case.
Okay. These are just some details that we wrote down and just little things, but let's see. The scarring on the shoulders, the upper arms, and thighs were from where Alex used to harm himself. He attended excuse me. He attended therapy and had actively been managing his depression. We got to read the note left by Alex with details of items to give to his girlfriend. While it cannot be ruled out as a type of suicide letter, the letter itself has no signs of intent. It was just items to give back to her and her phone number. Alex's mom has a bachelor's degree in criminology, and with this experience and previous knowledge makes her question the entry and exit wounds, their sizes, etc., which, yeah, that I don't blame her for that.
That's the one thing we're kind of stumped on here.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense. Okay. Alex was found over 10 miles from home. We still have no idea how he got there, but no way, at 90 pounds with his very bad asthma, did he walk that far on foot with temperatures below 20 degrees Fahrenheit, double layered, when he didn't walk around or... Okay. His mom said that he didn't walk around the country block without having his inhaler with him. So,
And we do want to stop real quick and let you know some of this information did come from the mom. We have been emailing back and forth quite a bit, and then with the initial information as well. So some of that information she just read was actually from Alex's mother.
okay. No inventory of weapon found. No ownership trace of it either. No shell casings were ever found. And his mother believes his body could have been posed. An officer said he also believed the body could have been posed until further details come to light, which he never said what those details are. His mother believes this was the county stepping in and saying, no, this is suicide. The access to the body cams were denied.
Imagine that.
Yeah.
This is why I asked you guys to please keep an open mind when we went over the police reports, because everything pointed to straight suicide. But I'm hoping you see what we see here, that we're seeing a lot of things that don't add up with that.
Yeah.
And with this, we're going to turn it over to Chrissy. And she has a summary that was actually written by Alex's mother that she's going to share.
Okay, guys, like Denny said, this is just a summary of what Mom had to say, and it is pretty long, so just bear with me here. Excuse me. On 2/3/21, approximately 11:45 p.m., Alex left on foot. We only know this because we checked. Now, remember, this is hers, so I'm going to be reading it like it's hers, okay? Alex left on foot. We only know this because we checked the cameras in our driveway. My husband and I were at work. Youngest daughter and my mom were home, both asleep. Let's see. Alex had left at that time. He left with no wallet, no car, no phone. Basically nothing but his clothes. It was freezing outside with nearly a foot of snow on the ground. My husband and I returned from work around 2 a.m. and went to bed. Alex's car was there, so we just assumed he was sleeping. The morning of 2/4/21, when I looked into his room, he was not there. I assumed his girlfriend picked him up. She lives in Attica, and frequently picked up Alex, leaving his car at home. So obviously, there's no doubt, okay, well, Alex is gone for the day. Everything seemed normal until that evening when his girlfriend came to the house because she wasn't able to reach him. At that point, I left for work and began to search for him. I called 911 at approximately 10:03 p.m. They said they'd send an officer. I called back, at 11:30 or 11:45. They still hadn't showed up, which is, seriously? Finally, a few minutes to midnight, they show up. They really did not do anything. They advised them that Alex left all of his stuff here, including his medication. But apparently he wore a silver alert bracelet for his asthma, I'm assuming. No?
No, they would not. They would not do a silver alert.
They wouldn't do a silver alert. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. The next morning, we learned of a retired officer that had a search dog through people at work. We made contact, and she made plans to come out here with her search dog. She advised the county police that she was planning to do so. So they sent 2 deputies to meet her. One had a very bad attitude before even got there. Because apparently they had been there before for a wellness check prior. He claimed that he had been there several times, which is not accurate. Alex had never gone missing before, but apparently he had. They attempted a search, however, we were told it was called off early because of the deputies. They were not prepared for the cold weather search. Mind you, it was what? What was it?
It was below 20.
Below 20 degrees outside. Let's see. Okay. The retired officer then contacted a person who had a thermal imaging drone. He agreed to help. We continued searching all areas within a 5-mile range of our house. On 2/8/21, a detective finally made contact and said he was assigned Alex's case. He said he was just playing catch up and wouldn't hear from him again. And that they would hear from him again, I'm sorry. On 2/9, he made contact asking to come to the house. We agreed, and I waited several hours for him to arrive. Once he showed up, he took background on Alex and left. On 2/9, the detective and another detective arrived again, this time to notify me that Alex had been found deceased. He showed me pictures of his tattoos to ID him, claiming that he had no ID on him. Later, we find that to be inaccurate. When he was asked what happened, the detective stated, there was no obvious trauma, so we will have to wait for an autopsy to find out what happened. We later also found that to be inaccurate from the funeral home. We originally met with the funeral home to make arrangements. They said what happened, so we stated what the detective said. On Saturday morning, which would be 2/13, the funeral home called me and said they had some issues. I asked what. He said again what the police told us. I again stated what the detective had told me. The funeral home apologized and said I should not be the one to tell you this, but it cannot be more obvious. Alex had a gunshot wound to the head, and if we have an open casket, we will have to pick a new one and a different liner, blah, blah, blah. Let's see. It was completely confusing as to why we had been lied to numerous times. The funeral home said they were going to speak to the police department as they should not have to be the one to notify us. I've made contact with the detective on Monday, 2/15, to ask why he lied. He claimed he didn't recall saying that, but that he only passed on info into the city police department gave him as they were on the scene. Excuse me. And I again found this to be inaccurate by the detective.
Real quick.
Sure.
Where she found that inaccurate, the detective is telling her that the city police was the ones on the scene and sending all of this information to him, But as we covered in his report in the previous video, he was actually on the scene as well. They called him in and he did show up on scene along with at least one other detective. So that's where the inaccuracies on that come from.
Yeah, because it says was also on the scene. As a matter of fact, the city police, seemed to be investigating until the detective showed up and claimed it was suicide. At that point, everything stopped, even though we were told they were still investigating. They were not, what's that say?
There.
They were not, and their reports reflected that. They never found a shell casing, even though they claimed to have used a metal detector. They did not find a handgun, but they did not check. They did find a handgun. I said that, didn't I? Oh, sorry. They did find a handgun, but they did not check out the handgun in any other way to see if it had been reported stolen. Neither department chose to follow up on anything. The autopsy states that the right side is the entrance wound. However, it also notes the wound on the right side is considerably larger than the left side, which they call the exit. A 9mm handgun should leave a smaller entry and a larger exit. That's just kind of common sense, not the other way around like they claim. The detective continued telling me that he was investigating. However, when I received his reports, he claims he was done with the case once he notified me. It was up to the Lafayette Police Department to investigate. However, the detective attended the autopsy 2 days after notification. I have never seen more holes in anything before, and I just want to find out what's happened to my son. Everyone I reach out to claims they want to help, but then they disappear. I do not understand what is going on. I did make contact with the city police department, but not much help. I do not know who else to reach out to. Clearly, the police have lied to me numerous times, so I do not foresee them being trustful at this point, which is heartbreaking. There were also inconsistencies in the story of the car stuck in the snow where Alex was found. The male and female each had different stories. He got the car stuck. She got the car stuck. The car was there almost 10 hours prior to them admitting it. So I can't get over this. There is so many inconsistencies and just it's all backwards.
In the vehicle she just mentioned, when law enforcement arrived, there was a vehicle in the area, not right up by Alex, but in the area that was stuck in the snow. One of the officers stood by the vehicle in case it was linked to this case. And he had, I believe it was a man and then a lady. Each one claimed that they got the vehicle stuck there. But after quite some time, law enforcement did determine that, they're not linked to this. So they did allow that vehicle to eventually be pulled out and moved. But the fact that there's inconsistencies with the people who own that vehicle with this and the other inconsistencies so far, it's really hard to say.
Right.
My biggest fear is that law enforcement arrived, the detective arrived who knew of his previous history with suicide, who may not have knew he had gotten professional help and was getting this under control. And obviously you look at what they found there, look at the history. It's going to be easy to jump to suicide as the answer, but in doing so, you still have a job to do. And there's several things that could have been done that could have cleared it up that day that I don't feel was done. And I'm starting to get into personal thoughts here, and I'm trying to limit that for the moment. Our next, and this is also one of the reasons we're not going to be able to do our reenactment on this episode like previously planned. We have several different things we're going to be doing reenactments on, trying to determine what's possible and what's not. And some of these is going to take a little longer So that video will not air until Sunday evening. Then through the week, we will jump on and share more information. The police reports, I basically just shared police reports that come from the detectives, and I believe they are with the county police department. I had the police reports for the city police department too. So we will be sharing some of that information through the week. And we will next weekend on Sunday, instead of our normal live feed that we would do, we're going to do the live feed on this case to discuss with you everything we've uncovered, all of our thoughts, questions, and work with you to try to determine if this is a suicide or not.
I mean, it all points to one, but everything, all the inconsistencies are just weird. I don't know.
Sorry, Danny had a phone call.
Yeah.
Sorry, we found out earlier that his mom's sick and she had to go to the hospital, so we're dealing with that while we're trying to do this.
Yeah. But yeah, it's just one of those cases. Like I said, guys, this is one of those cases that just broke my heart, and the more I read, the more aggravated I get, because nothing is coming up right.
It's like not one single officer has the same stuff in their reports. It's like nobody has anything that matches.
And that I don't get. And like Denny said, this may be just a suicide. Hopefully I don't want it to be either one, but obviously Alex is gone. But you still have a job to do, whether it be, you see what I'm saying, Meg? I mean, you still have protocol to do.
Yeah.
And this is not how you treat the family. She just wants answers. His mom wants answers. I'm sure the girlfriend wants answers and whatnot. I mean, I can't even imagine what they're still going through, and this was back in February.
I mean, I know when you do this line of work, you're told not to put your emotions and stuff in it. But at the same time, this is somebody whose child is missing, whose child has been found deceased.
Right.
You got to give them something.
And I think that's why his mom isn't 100%. I don't think, she's just having a rough time. She wants answers, and I think once she gets those answers, she'll feel better. She'll be able to, at least know that it's done, Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So.
When we first started looking at that, a part of me just kept thinking, she just doesn't want to accept it. But the more we did research on this, I don't blame her for not accepting it.
Yeah, I don't blame you one bit,
This is ridiculous.
Sweetheart. Right. It's hard to believe this because everything's so inaccurate, and I just don't understand. And Lafayette, Indiana, that's a big town. It's a big area. Yeah. So, really?
Yeah.
But anyway, so what would Denny have? Do you remember if Denny has anything else he needed to say or do?
No, it was just going back over what we had already talked about.
Like I said, guys, we're gonna have this is what, part 2 or 3?
I think we're on episode 3. Episode 3.
So yeah, we've got some more information coming eventually for Alex, and hopefully we can get you guys to answers you need, because you're probably wondering the same thing now. Like, okay, what is this? What is going on?
Yeah.
Anyway. Okay, guys.
So, yeah, just keep following along. And if anybody can figure anything out that we haven't, or if there's anything you want to share, just email us or let us know, comment, whatever. It's just, y'all know how to get a hold of us. So.
All right, guys. So, with that being said, you guys stay safe out there, and let's bring some of these people home.